there are these huge protests that started when the Ukrainian government rejected a deal with the European Union. They were going to adopt over 300 new laws that were from the European Union, and they were going to open up trade and become more Western in their economic system and in their government. And again, at the last minute, the Ukrainian government said no. And a lot of people flipped out over that. They were very upset because the government reaffirmed its ties with Russia over Europe. And in fact, Putin gave them a $15 billion bailout to try to calm down the protests. And it worked briefly. And then after that, the government passed a law cracking down on protesters and basically saying you can't assemble freely. That led to even bigger protests because people said, fuck that. Then eventually there was violence. Riot police killed 70 protesters, maybe even more than 70 protesters, injured hundreds of people. There were guys getting shot with sniper rifles, just a crazy situation. There were things burning all over the place. So an original peace deal fell through. Briefly popped up, there was some hope, and then it fell through. Well, now there's a second one. And this one has a fighting chance. In this new deal, the government goes back to the 2004 constitution in the Ukraine, which was much less authoritarian. The president, Yanukovych, was allowed to dismiss the prime minister and other parliamentarians and other politicians if he wanted to. Now he's not allowed to do that, or in 48 hours when this takes effect, he won't be allowed to do that. And they're also implementing more checks and balances, and most importantly, they've agreed to early elections, which was a key protester demand. That was one of their main things. So now here's where it gets sticky. The opposition leaders, so the people who are like the head of the protesters, they liked the deal, and they signed the deal. But most of the opposition protesters, so most of the protesters, they don't like the deal. They actually prefer that Yanukovych steps down immediately. They want him to step down right now. So the peace deal is a good sign, but there's still going to be protests because not all these guys are on board, and there's still a chance of civil war. Because, again, the protests are going to continue, which means the riot police will likely continue to crack down in very gruesome ways. And here's the conundrum. You simply can't please the pro-European protesters and the pro-Soviet eastern part of the country. And Russia has said that they would even step in militarily if they had to protect Crimea, which is the eastern part of the Ukraine, which is largely, they identify more with Russia and the former Soviet Union, whereas the other part of the country is more European and they're more Western in their ways. So it's a strange thing that we're looking at right now, and here's the biggest fear. The biggest fear is there's a civil war. They try to break apart the eastern part of the country from the other part of the country. Russia steps in to defend the eastern part of the country, and it's just a bloodbath with Russian soldiers killing all these pro-Western, pro-European Union people. So how's it going to go down? I don't know. We have... this is a good sign. The peace deal is a good sign, but what we need is, in all seriousness, we need the pro-European protesters to abide by the terms of the deal, to abide by the peace deal. So I would actually say, even though I'm on the side of the protesters, I would say, stand down, man. Stand down. You got a deal. You're going to have your early elections. You've gone back to the 2004 Constitution. Whatever goes down in those elections, I hope they side more with the European Union. I hope that they open themselves up to a Western kind of lifestyle, but you should do it through the elections, and you shouldn't, continue to press as you already got a peace deal, because then it's just going to spark more controversy, lead to a bigger crackdown from the riot police, and make Russia want to get involved even more.